introduce our first keynote, a very special keynote, Simon Andrew Woolley, Baron Woolley of Woodford, and Pro-Vice Chancellor of University of Cambridge. He's the founder and director of Operation Black Vote and trustee of the charity Police Now. Woolley has been a crossbench member of the House of Lords since October 2019, has been Principal of Homerton College, Cambridge since October 2021. He was chair of the Government of the United Kingdom Race Disparity Unit Advisory Group until July 2020. So we're extremely excited to have him open the conference for us. And thank you very much for accepting the invitation.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that warm introduction. I often think when you get such a warm round of applause, at that moment you ought to leave. Job done, right? But thank you also to Pam. If you don't know Pam, which I'm sure many of you do, she's a force of nature, right? And I guess being a force of nature, driven for societal good. More power to you, Pam. I was thinking about some of the remarks that you made earlier. One in particular, dreams can come true, and I want to dwell on that for a second or so. Not least because a hero of mine also spoke about dreams. In fact, it was the title of his speech from Dr. Martin Luther King. All of you know that Dr. Martin Luther King had a dream, had a big dream, that people like me will not be judged by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character, right? And whilst people understand the momentous of having a dream, what they perhaps forget that more than King's wonderful dream, important as it is, he had a plan. He had a plan. And his plan was to politically empower African Americans and then poor white Americans, not to ask for justice and equality and decency and fairness, but to demand it. And demand it through the ballot box. I see myself as a disciple of Dr. Martin Luther King. I didn't know as a young man that I would be so, as a young child, that I would be so moved and struck by the civil rights campaigners, the freedom riders, the trials and tribulations. But when I became a young adult and thought to myself, what's my role in society? How can I make a difference? I leant back into the dream and the plan of Dr. Martin Luther King. And about 30 years ago, about 28 years ago, we set up Operation Black Vote. We set it up because there were too many black and brown people going into police custody, fit and healthy, and coming out in body bags. And nobody was held accountable. And we said that, look, we can't ask for justice. We can't beg for decency and equality. We have to demand it. We have to take it. And so we set up this campaign. We had no money and no money anytime soon. But I guess, Pam, when you think about the art, when you think about the essence of this conference, the art of possibility, when your project starts off as a blasphemy, but can be translated to normality. That was our goal back in the 90s. Back in the 90s, there were 4 black, Asian, and minority ethnic MPs in Westminster. Keith Vaz, Diane Abbott, a dear friend, Paul Boateng, and the late but great Bernie Grant. 4. When this ragtag group of activists with no money set themselves to change the world, to empower our communities, to look for allies, to serve notice on the institutions. Fast forward before the election last Thursday, we went from 4 minorities of color to 64. And a brown prime minister, an Asian prime minister. I'll be honest with you, they're not all great. Don't get me started. I don't want to start naming names. But if you push me, Kemi Badenoch, Suella Braverman. Oh, stop. The art of possibility. I guess what Pam and the co-chairs want from you today is to have some of that Martin Luther King spirit. The dream and the plan. Now, you can read as many books as you like, and I'm sure many of you do. But in the end, it's about action. It's about taking people along with you and delivering the impossible. Right? I'm struck by a line of the great rapper Jay-Z. What does he say? Difficulty takes a week, impossibility. Difficulty takes a day, impossibility a week. Hold that thought. Hold that thought for a second, and I promise you, you can do extraordinary things. I think it's important to be purposeful. It's important to have great humility. It's not about you, it's about what you can do. You gain an awful lot. Trust me on this. You gain an enormous amount when you just give. And you give selflessly. I have a wonderful college. I would argue it's the best college on the planet. And what I'm trying to instill, I'm trying to do another impossible task. This is part of an elite, often privileged institution. It's my job, it's my impossible task, which will become possible, to reimagine education in an elite institution. We have 1,500 students across the road there. I want them to have academic excellence, of course, to read the best books, to have all that knowledge. But I say to them during formal dinner, I say, I want you to have the Willy Wonka ticket, right? This is the golden ticket. You say you're from Oxford or Cambridge and jaws drop. But I ask you, the students, what is it for? On my watch, I can't have students leaving there feeling entitled, feeling puffed up, feeling that they're better than anybody else. It can't happen on my watch. I want them to be confident. I want them to have all the tools to do extraordinary things. But precisely for that, societal change. If you've got access to all the best books, to access to some of the best thinkers. What are you going to do with it? And if it's just to fill your boots and be puffed up and think that you're better than most people, don't come to Homerton College. There might be other places, but not here. But we have to create the culture that speaks to that. During my first week, they asked me what I want to do. Bearing in mind now, I'm not an academic. I'm not from Oxford or Cambridge, or I'm an activist. They said, Simon, what do you want to do? So I said, could you put a week in the diary, a day for this week, for me to work with the infrastructure of this college? They said to me, what does that look like? I said, I want a day to work with the cleaners. I want a day to work with the maintenance, with the gardeners. Please get to see our beautiful garden. On the first day, I worked with the cleaners, and there'd been a big dinner in our great hall, and I was put my overalls on, and I was scrubbing the floor with a cleaner, Mandy, and she said, I've been here 30 years, and I've seen 5 heads of houses. I don't think one has known my name, much less got on their hands and knees and scrubbed the floor with me. For me, it wasn't some big act, but it was a recognition that they're an integral part of our college. Oh, and by the way, that could be my mum cleaning, scrubbing the floor. And I wanted to show what leadership should look like. To listen, to have the humility to say that we're equal. We all have a role to play, and we must be respected. By the way, once you know the infrastructure of an organization, I get great intel. They've got my back because I've got theirs. And for me, the art of possibility is all of those things driven by leadership with humility. But the leadership piece for you, I and Pam and the others would like you to think, if you dare, bigger than you've ever thought, braver, stronger, because our society needs you. In this country, we've had some wretched years of the politics of pitting poor white people against poor black people and gaining political capital. So it's not about dealing with the problems at hand. It's about blaming a vulnerable community for the impoverishedness of another. I mean, how despicable is that? Really? We can lament, we can shout at the TV, or we can do something about it. Do it on your own, do it with a group, do it with a bigger group. It doesn't matter, but do. In terms of the impossibility, Pam, you keep pushing against this. That what is possible. I remember I got a call from Downing Street, from Theresa May's government, and they said to me, Simon, we probably think you're not aligned with our politics, but we like what you do. and we respect what you might have to offer. So the idea you had about the race disparity unit, we'd like you to chair. We want to do it, and we want you to chair an independent body that will keep our feet close to the fire. That's great humility, by the way, having that big tent. So the first thing I did, I thought to myself, okay, let me just see what I can do here. And so I called up the vice chancellors and pro-vice chancellors of all the big universities to Downing Street, and we sat around this big table, and I could see them. I could see their body language. It was like this. They were thinking, "Oh my gosh, Simon Woolley is going to give us a kicking. He's going to haul us over the coals because we have no black leadership. The attainment gap for students is shocking. He's going to give us a dreadful time." But we had to come because it was Downing Street. So I sensed that, and I said to them, "Please calm down. This is not the Spanish Inquisition. If I look around the table, look at all this talent around this room. Can we harness that? Can we collectively find ways to close the black attainment gap, to get black leadership in positions of influence? We can do that, can't we?" And you could see the relief from them, that they were then willing to have a big conversation. Some months later, I got a call from somebody at the House of Commons and said they wanted to do a leadership project. And could I help them for us to get more black, Asian, and minority ethnic MPs into Parliament? So I said, I just had a conversation with Oxford University. Let's beat a path to their door. And so we went along there, no money anytime soon, and said to the Pro-Vice Chancellor, "I've got this idea that we should establish a conveyor belt for young men and women who want to do extraordinary things to come to Oxford for a week, have master classes, and then go on and do extraordinary things." And everybody in the room nodded. And then I went to Lloyd's Bank and said, "Now you got to pay." And they did. Fiona Cannon. And then, out of nothing, we had Blavatnik College and Magdalen College and the university and all the people that I knew in politics, and they'd all come and give master classes in media, master classes, by the way, in ethics. That was the class number one. This was 4 years ago. Giving, and more giving. Last Thursday, 2 individuals from that scheme became members of Parliament. Wow. It's what happens. It's what happens when you have a dream and you have a plan and then you execute it. Natasha Iron, she won in Croydon. She rang me up and she said, "Simon, oh my gosh, what have you done?" And I said, "What have you done? This is about you." And Josh Babarindi in Eastbourne, he said to me, "Simon, the reformer after me." I said, "Don't worry, Josh. You've got guardian angels, including me." And he won, and he will serve. So my message to you is clear. Pam wanted you here on a mission that maybe even she didn't think about. Could be so wonderful, so societal changing. And I'm just humbled and honoured to play a very small part. I know Pam wants me here every day, but I can't. But I will try to keep coming back. But please, please don't be burdened. Please don't be burdened by the challenge. And even with what you suggest, even what you suggest might start off as a blasphemy. Know if it comes from the heart and it comes from giving and believing, it will be a wonderful executed dream. Thank you all very much.
And a little gesture of appreciation from us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think we can agree that we could not have had a better opening to the event. And I see that there might be possibility for one question or two. Let's see if
a question from this side and a question from
Simon,
that side,
you're not
so we
off
have
the
no
hook
complaints.
yet. Yeah.
Do we have a question from this side? Come on, guys.
Do we have any questions?
Or a comment? Or is there a question over there? We have two. There we go. Thank you. So you've got a little bit of time to think. Ready?
It's an inquisitive community.
Thank you so much, Simon. I'm very emotional hearing that. The thing I really wanted to come and find you and mention, so I might as well just do it now, is a notion of inclusive excellence.
Right.
And the two words co-define one another. And it was coined by, I think she's Alma Claydon Pedersen, who was running American Institutional Renewal.
Yeah.
And the idea that we thought of inclusion and excellence as a pendulum, and you're either excellent, but not many people get in, or you're inclusive, but the bar's quite low.
Right.
But actually what I hear from you, and I, pray it into being here in Homerton, is a vision for inclusive excellence. So it's not a question, it's a comment, but thank you so much.
It's a great comment. And look, let's be honest. On paper, I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be here, no. I was brought up in a council estate, fostered and adopted by white parents. I left school without any O-levels or A-levels. My mum said to me I could do anything. She loved me to have the self-belief that I could go back to college and learn. But even institutions like Oxford and Cambridge, that they pride themselves on academic excellence, but still miss diamonds in the rough. Right? Diamonds in the rough. And if you're not aware that there are diamonds in the rough, then you're looking in a small pool with a narrow metric that becomes self-serving, right? But once you say there is talent everywhere and we need to go upstream and create pathways, and like we did with Operation Black Vote, and you begin to nurture talent, and you see the talent rise to the occasion, it's a win-win. They don't know what's hit them with me here because not least because they haven't had the bandwidth to see what's possible, Pam. When you bring somebody in with their own talent and their own energy and make it part of a team, great things can happen. One of the challenges you will have, Pam, in this wonderful art of possibility is having greater representation. It's going to be a challenge. I know you're up for it. I know you're up for it too. Because without that, you cannot truly serve. And it's having the humility to say we can't serve unless we begin to look like the people we're serving. That's on us. And then you can say, like I often hear in Cambridge, well, it's the Cambridge way. But if the Cambridge way isn't inclusive, then it's not working. Oh, and by the way, you polish some of these diamonds, and this is not a zero-sum game. I win, you lose. When these diamonds shine, we all shine. One last question.
Any others?
I think I've stung you to silence.
Here is one question. Oh.
Here we have a question here. Last question. If you could have a chat with Simon later, is that okay? Thank you. Please.
Hi, Matilda Joubert here from Australia. Thank you very much for that. One of my reflections is how difficult it is for institutions to have the courage and the bravery to embrace the art of the possible, to appoint an activist rather than an academic here at Homerton College. I would love to know from you, what does it take, do you think, for institutions to change, to have the bravery to act in service of the art of possibility?
You know, in some ways, you know, you might say that Homerton were brave, but were they so brave? You know, I'm hitting the ball out the park. Right? You know, I'd been there a month. Let's say 2 months. Within 2 months, I'd brought the future king to Homerton College. I said, what? Yeah. Clarence House called up and said, the future king wants to congratulate you on becoming the first black man to head Oxbridge College. Would you like him to come? And I said, let me think about this, yes. And then when I told the team, I said, we're having a road to come and visit. And they thought, is this going to be Princess Anne? And I said, no, it's the future king. The future king's coming. Roll out the red carpet. They asked me, when you unveil the plaque, when you get a royal visit, Clarence House said, would you like the future king to say something on the plaque? And I said, of course I would. Ask him to say something that he believes in, and he knows that I share his belief. So when you go into our dining hall, have a look. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm not going to tell you. It's the first time in royal history that they've put a quote from the king on a plaque. So he came, I arrived in October, he came in November. In December, I invited a civil rights icon, my hero, my mentor, Reverend Jesse Jackson. Right, you can applaud that. You know, keep hope alive. Remember his quote? I told our students, without Jackson, you wouldn't have had Obama. And he's now a fellow, an honorary fellow of Homerton College. So were they really being brave? A greater essence is humility and allyship. You know, what worries me, what deeply worries me, particularly for people of color and for women in general, and neurodiversity, is this fact that too often we're still dependent upon your good grace. Until you say, I can come in, my talent can't be seen. I'm frustrated by that. And let me explain why I get deeply frustrated about the good grace of liberals, white liberals, if you like. 4 years ago, we watched a black man die in front of our eyes. Right? 4 years ago. And the Western world in particular was struck to the core. In the USA and across Europe, we had some of the biggest protests ever seen. In the UK, the biggest and longest protests with Black Lives Matter. Institutions like this and companies around the globe, after the protest, looked round and said, yeah, but look at our boards. We're all white and mainly white men. And there was a genuine reflection about, oh my gosh, we talk a good talk and do nothing. My son, I've got a precocious 18-year-old, and he was 15 at the time, and he's still precocious. And he said to me, Dad, look, let's be honest, man to man, it's like 15. He said, you only got the job at Homerton because of Black Lives Matter. That's what he said. Do you know how I responded? I said, yeah, you're right, but not quite. I said, what the Black Lives Matter protest did was demand institutions have a look for black and brown talent, because they weren't looking. But when they pulled down the veil, they could see all this talent. And they invited a few of us to come to these institutions. So you're right, son, that Black Lives Matter. If it wasn't for Black Lives Matter, I probably wouldn't be here. But what you fail to understand, son, is that I couldn't have been in the shop window without the 25, 30 years backstory. So you have to do the work. You have to have the credibility. You have to have all the skills. And then hopefully that veil will be torn away. My worry to you all is that 4 years later, we're not just seeing a pushback from EDI, but a snapback. We're done with it. It's not a good thing for us. And so we're again, what have we got to do? Wait for another George Floyd moment? Not on Pam's watch, not on my watch. Be bold, be wonderfully bold, be wonderfully brave, with humility, and we'll get great things done. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.